It's the weekly 30-30 list on the ASX. We're looking at the 30 best momentum companies over the last quarter and the top 30 momentum stocks that have improved in the last week. That's the Launchpad. Gary Glover has been through these two, pulled out his favourite charts and got them ready to discuss this morning. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, Chris. How you going?
Well, I'm well. It's good to see a lot of movement in the market. We're seeing a bit of corporate action, a bit of corporate activity that gets a few indices and sectors sort of excited and getting some charts running and jumping. We might see some of those in the momentum stocks, but also probably a bit of follow through for those themes and sectors in the individual ones or the other ones that aren't under play. How did you read the list this week?
Mate, exactly as you described it there. Actually, obviously that the weekly list there has got a ton of lithium stocks in there. Obviously, post obviously, some of the M&A activity there. So lots of those jumping in there. Still a few tech in there. A couple of gold still hanging around in there, but the number of golds definitely sort of faded from the list here now. But yeah, definitely lithium popping in the weekly. Still a few tech in there, which I like. So yeah, interesting week for me personally. I sort of, you get taught a few lessons in the market there. There's a few missed opportunities from this week. I sort of had some really A class setups, and I got distracted by a B class setup. And so instead of taking home the bacon with some really awesome A class setups, I got
torched on the B.
Got distracted by some B class, and yeah. So I think one of those little trades was sort of something I managed to sort of was in, and then it was a good setup. And then I got the move. I trimmed my position, and then I sort of upscaled my sort of stop. So I managed it pretty well. But then I got distracted by a few other things, and that trade as well. And then I saw something occurred in one of those stocks, and I got distracted by that and added to it, which I shouldn't have done. Was sort of outside my rules, and got hit the next day. Got taught my lesson, and the thing that I got distracted away from had a massive pop. And yeah, let's just say instead of being up 6k on one posi, I was down 2 on another just because I got distracted. So if that's not a lesson for you in terms of sort of narrowing your focus, just trying to focus on your A sort of setups and don't get so that was sort of my week there. Could have been overall not a bad week, but that was just one of the biggest lessons there.
Well, it's good of you to share those lessons, because like we're all traders, we're all constantly learning from the markets, and even though you have been doing it for a very long time, sit back and review your trades, and consistently, I know you tell me you put your rules up in your office.
Yeah. Well, the hard thing with that one, Chris, was it was something I was watching for a long time, waiting patiently for this trade to set up. And then I was sort of on the road at the time there. So I did buy a little bit in one of my accounts, just I thought I'd buy the early just in case. And then I sort of got distracted and sort of didn't get involved. I thought, no, I'll just add to it later. It might matter if I'm trying a bit late. And then it jumped quite a bit. And then, and it was this other thing was sort of messing me around a little bit. And I thought, why am I messing around in that? Sort of like, it was just all a big distraction there. So I was sort of didn't manage my time properly. Got distracted by a B trade, which I just should have just stayed up. I mean, I set it properly. I sort of got a move. It actually turned against me, but it gave me a second chance to get out. So I cut it in half for a nice, like a modest profit. I moved my stop to sort of break even. So I thought, okay, it's not going to hurt whichever way it goes. But then that was the plan, all good. And then I got deviated, distracted, and and it wasn't a big position too. It wasn't actually. I didn't really do anything seriously bad. I just got caught up in a B trade when it was just a first class trade. There was something I've been looking for, and I didn't really get to scale up at all. I didn't get that position on, didn't grow it. And I was like, I thought, geez, I've been waiting for weeks for this posi. So
maybe we can see if we can find it through your reactions, and maybe it does come up in the momentum. So might be a good point to.
Yeah.
What did you find in this week's momentum list?
Well, there's a couple actually from last week there that I really liked, and again, there was two there that I actually really caught my eye. and one was that AKE, which was actually is number 20 on the list there, because that made our little VCP in there, Chris. And we talked about this last week. So like, it's okay to have this VCP that actually doesn't always have to stay under the high. It can actually, they can be sort of slight new highs there, and then popping through all that, pop through. So that's just a beautiful VCP in there. Pop through to a new high there, had a few days, and then bang, got taken over there. So that did give us a good signal there. And I think the other one there, that was, I think it was LKE and AKE were the two that I sort of saw there. This was the other one that made a false breakdown here. So went to a slight new low, and then turned here. So that was a good signal as well. And there was some good volume at that low. So that's my type of setup too. So those are the two that I marked last week and didn't trade either of them. The one that I didn't scale up on here, which is I was watching pretty closely, was the Dicker data. It went to a new low there, made that little false break, big almost exhaustion of the volume as well. So tech sector's been, Nasdaq has actually gone to a new high here in the last few days. So lots of growth stocks starting to run here. This is surprisingly, this one had underperformed, but did give us a false break here and then turn up here. So plenty of chance to get to move. And then what it's done here is just popped here. So this is the one that I missed. And got distracted. I won't tell you what I got distracted by, but I got distracted.
But just on those first two that you mentioned, those two lithium companies, it's something that we've been talking about off air a little while and generating lists that we like to trade from, is the theme or that group itself and how it was ranked coming into it. So this is something that we were looking at. I'm just trying to look up the list now as to how far back. So if I'm looking at the list that we were talking about yesterday, the lithium stocks and when they hit the launch pad. So while they are definitely a leader at the moment, they hit the launch pad 5-6 days ago, which is obviously before the Allkem. And then that's kind of a filtering mechanism to go, okay, well, here's a leading industry, the lithium stocks. Let's see if we can find some leaders in there. Obviously, Allkem's trading up towards those ranges, which we're doing and filtering near the monthly high or the 52-week high. Obviously not the 52-week right now. And then also, is there a good chart in there? So does that kind of ticks those boxes, right? It's a leading theme. It's at near a month high.
100%, Chris. Yeah. I can't understate actually that report. That I mean, obviously you're working on this in the background at the moment, but as I said, that if you break that all the sectors into say a third, sort of the worst performing, the best performing, and then those that are sort of in the middle. If we're just looking at the top third sectors on the market, we shouldn't be trading anything outside of that. So the bottom third that's underperforming, we should just scrap that. We shouldn't be trading any of those. The middle third, which is sort of still in hibernation or going sideways, we should only be looking at trading the stocks that are in the top third of the leading sectors there, and then trying to look for the strongest sort of in that company there. And also sometimes, I mean, Dicker data is a good example. That wasn't a leading stock in that sector, but it has been in the past, so sort of one to keep an eye on. And then, so it's not the strongest stock there for that, obviously that tech sort of area, but you're starting to get some movement in some others. So as you know, the sort of sisters will get caught along. So may not have the same sort of move as some of the other ones there, but yeah, it's just interesting there. So I'm definitely just trying to look, if I'm looking at a stock, I have a look at the sector that you send through and make sure it's in the top. I still don't fully understand all the sectors you sort of got in there, but we'll work on that. We'll craft that out so that everyone knows what's going on there in the future. But it's pretty impressive there. And then just seeing the sectors move as well. So the only other one, what's there? I mean, there's a few on the list there. They're okay there. I think LAN number 11 there was sort of thought. This was the only negative I sort of saw is I think sometimes in the past when you see these three overlapping peaks there, Chris, like that, that's I know sometimes you can sort of see them and continue on there. That always makes me nervous after a stock's had a strong run. We've had an impulsive move and then you start to overlap. That can be a bit of a negative. Sort of something to watch for there.
Is that the 3 thrust high?
Yeah, a little bit
Similar.
there. Look, it doesn't. So the smaller ones, it's not as classic here, but if it's had a really impulsive, I mean, this is probably just overlapping the whole nature here. But if it runs like pretty hard and then starts overlapping, like this has had a pretty strong moment, then I'd be a bit nervous there. But it's more effective on the bigger stocks than the smaller ones. Just going through the list there. Western Mines there. This is sort of one that I thought was interesting there, just because it had a pretty good jump there, little congestion, another jump there. Bit of a time-consuming pullback here. So if we dig in there, so we had a bit of volume the first day, but volume's a bit lighter here, and a bit of a jump on volume. Pull back here. Very light volume on the sell down here. So no selling in here. And then we got a little bit of an inside day, not much given away there. And then a bit of a pop here. So not bad volume there. So this sort of still looks in play to me, WMG. So always, the thing about these leading stocks when they pop here, you're really looking to sort of see what they do after they pop there. That tells you a lot about where they continue on. And we're talking about all the leaders there and the quarterly leaders there. Is that the one thing which is pretty consistent with the ones that have been running in the list for a while is that you don't see much selling, and the volume's pretty timid. So on the pullback, so you want to see the stronger stocks have this sort of pause, but you just want to see them. You don't want to see any volume come in there. Well, this is sort of one that I haven't seen for a while. PPK is in that sort of metal sort of space there. Just starting to build a little bit there. I don't know. This stock's been on a downtrend for a long time, so there's going to be a lot of sellers in the way here. But there was a little BCP in there, and then a pop out there, a little bit of a shakeout and keep going. But volumes are still pretty timid, so can't get too excited by that one. AZS. This has sort of been building quite nicely, really. And this is sort of, I like to sort of see this sort of setup here, how, pull back, some good volume come in, pull back on light volume, and then start to go here. And you're all sitting under the high here. And then, there's another little congestion there. Look at that. Says no. Again, that's the thing. It's oftentimes the counter trends here that are more revealing than anything else. You can see there's just no volume in there. And that's sitting under the high here. So that's a VCP. That's what David Ryan looks for. That little 3 or 4 days congestion underneath the peak here, and then pop through there. And then when the Nasdaq's
even those compression days or those throwbacks, it's trying to throw back lower, but it just keeps recovering intraday, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then the whole thing's popped here on big volume. Come back and retest at the level. Maybe just come back to the old high or near it, and then gone again. So when you see this come back and sit on top of the old high, that's perfect, and then see volume come in. So getting a bit late here now, but gee, that's nothing wrong with the whole setup there. That's the type of thing you're looking for. Lithium Energy. This has been a list for a little bit. Obviously popped out kind of early there, so a bit of a volume pop there, a bit of a congestion, and a pop through again. Some pretty big volume coming through there. Hard to trade, not the cleanest sort of technical setup there, but obviously is one of those sectors. We talked about the AKE, what a good little setup that was really. Weebit Nano this is probably rallied a bit harder than I thought. One thing you're not seeing through here is, Chris, there's not too much volume through there. So I mean, this is what I consider to be like an overbalance of the trends. That's quite a large correction, so that would concern me. And was there any sort of selling through here? That there was a bit of selling through there. So the selling was pretty elevated, and then we started to build here. You always get a bit of a counter move here. You just never know how far this can go. But this still looks like a counter move to me. So the volume's quite a bit lower. So if this was like a second wave, and we're going to get like a third wave impulsive rally, like what Elliott Wave would call a strongest wave, you would see the strongest volume. We're not seeing that, so that would be telling me to be pretty cautious about that stock there. Pointsbet was sort of one that we mentioned there, has sort of like this volume here was a change of character there. Pretty strong aggressive volume through there, had a pretty impulsive move, not too many pauses in there, bit of a shakeout here, but then we did see a little bit of a pause here, and then again it's about watching, looking for this little pause, little congestion there. I usually like them to sort of set up a bit longer, but this was struggling to go down here, so it's still pretty robust there. Yeah, so that's one that's definitely on the list there. BRB, another one that's sort of pretty strong volume through here with its drive. Had a bit of a pullback there. I think it's interesting to me is no one sold this stock here into that drive. Volume's quite low, so it's pulled back, had a bit of a run here. So maybe it'll ease back. Maybe this can set up a VCP. So I'm just going to put this stock on our list there because maybe it'll congest, for a while, and then go later on. So this is why sometimes we're waiting. It's a bit of a, sometimes it's a bit of a waiting game. This trading stuff, you sort of got to get your early signs there, get your change of character, get big volume there. You just got to wait patiently for your pause there. So make your lists and stuff there. Try not to get distracted by, B-class trades and just stick to the A's because they're there. They're there every week. We can see them here every week in these leading themes, Chris. So, just got to be more patient there. So, yeah, I sort of generally been pretty happy with my trading the last few weeks. I've just made that one little mistake here this week. Everything else was okay. But LPI was another lithium one there. It's funny, this LP number 3 and number 4 are almost exactly the same chart. So I had to do like a double take when I sort of saw them. So this one worries me a little bit there just because there's not too much volume through here. Has sort of trended down here, driven up here, not much volume there. There was a bit of selling there. Whereas I think the LPI, as much as it looked the sort of same sort of chart there, just a little different here in that although there was a little bit of volume, not heavy volume through here, bit of aggressive volume through there, bit dry up. Had a reasonable drive here. So far, not too much volume here. So just be interesting to sort of see whether this can sort of congest here. But the reality is there's still a downtrend here. So we're still on a bit of a primary downtrend. So both of those sort of we just sort of wait and see there. SPN on the weekly list is sort of one to keep an eye on there, just because again pretty small, very, very strong downtrend. Just the volume the last 3 or 4 days, interesting. So still couldn't trade this one there. Still no swing high broken. It just sort of gets added to my list to keep an eye on. We mentioned that LKE, how it made a false break here and then moved there. We had some good volume, so good little signal for me. PMT is sort of one that was on the list a while ago. It's just pretty erratic sort of since it's since the start here. But last thing on the chart here is we've got little VCP in here. I think we might have talked about this actually about 3 or 4 weeks ago. How we wanted to sort of see this congest here and then break through here. So, the one thing you can do if you can see here we've got a few highs across here, but if you want to sort of what we call like little cheats and stuff there, if these VCPs are sort of starting to break out here, so this is the first day here, sort of breaking out of that pattern there, and you'll see some good volume there. So to me, if I'd seen that, this is sort of setting up in here a little bit early, that might have had that would have had you interested if you're watching this pretty close. Breaking out of that range there, that's what that's a little bit of a cheat there. I like them to sort of break above that high there, but not to say I wouldn't start with a little small position there with a pretty tight stop. And if it kicked on above that level, add to it. Breaking above here, adding it again, then you're scaled up. Then you got your stop in here, and then you see what happens. It keeps going. You do well. If it turns back down again, you stop out at a reasonable loss there. So it's all we can do is just put ourselves in a position to win here. But that looks pretty tidy. It's pretty decent moves in there. So it's just sort of one way of sort of not going to say don't cheat a little bit. If you get a little bit of a confirmation, because you're all trying to get an edge on each other. Obviously, everyone trades the VCPs, but you're looking for sort of certain things. There's certain things that I like to see. Like to see the volume, like to see B-wave break, like to see maybe breaking out of those ranges there. Just looking at all those things there to sort of help us get a better entry and to get us set there. There's a few other stocks on this list here, Chris, that are interesting as well. GL1, there's another lithium space there. So again, had some reasonable volume at the low, which is interesting. Congested, pretty light volume, and then some volume again here. So a bit hard to trade this one, but don't look too bad there. A couple other sectors actually that were sort of popping up on my radar before I saw them on the list here was some of the hydrogen stocks, obviously after the budget. So they've had a bit of a climb here. So we've got a little AVC in here, move higher there. I'm starting to sort of edge up out of this as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Hazer, which is the leader in there as well, sort of has had a pretty decent pop as well, good volume. Still a bit of a downtrend here, but definitely, all that volume through there, that's telling me to keep an eye on this sector. And then the other one there, which was on the list, which I sort of saw, was we saw Paladin again, a little pullback in here, and then a pop through the range here. So popping up out of the range here. So a bit messy, the uranium stocks, pretty hard to trade, but did see people talking about the price of uranium. Some uranium charts actually sort of turning up, swinging higher here. So just interesting that Paladin's had a bit of a move here.
Well, interestingly, uranium jumped up in the launch pad about 7 trading days ago, well and truly before lithium, as being one of the top ranked themes on the ASX on the launch pad, and that's kind of that leading indicator.
So deep yellow sort of made that sort of false break there, some good volume down at the low, and it's had a rally, and it's taken out the little swing high as well here. So it's a few stocks in that uranium sector actually looking pretty interesting. I saw a few traders talking about it, and talking about the uranium price as well has been moving up overseas here. So that is definitely a sector to keep a close eye on there. So obviously energy sort of issues still in play here. So I sort of want to keep an eye on. PWL, so that's another lithium stock here, just sort of kicked up out of the range a little bit. So a bit of a tight congestion there, a little bit of a kick up. So that's kind of a positive sign there. A little bit messy in the volume there. That's right. One that did jump in here, which I thought was pretty interesting, was Mesoblast. So the thing here is we've sort of got our low here, first higher low, second higher low, third higher low. We're getting a clump of volume through here, clumps of volume as well. So actually, this is sort of like, this is our sort of 0, 1, 2, 3 pattern there, Chris, sort of setting up there, starting to sort of build something here. So look, Mesoblast has let everyone down continually there because they're always raising equity. But think about what Mesoblast has sort of made it pretty clear as to what they're trying to do. It's really a land grab, So instead of sort of focusing all their energy in one area, they've basically planted multiple poles around the different sort of injuries and different areas of medicine there. This they got the back, all different areas, trying to sort of get their patents in multiple areas there. So it's pretty expensive practice, but to get it right, potentially there's some longevity long term. But just notice this one is really starting to build a series of high lows here. So it's almost sort of starting to build a base here. So definitely one to sort of keep an eye on there. I've just well and truly put this back on my list there. So just remind me a little bit of that sort of Kogan setup there. We've sort of over a long time building those high lows. So I just think that is potentially changing character there. I think Dicadata mentioned there, nice little false break of the low. It's a good volume coming in, and it's had a bit of a pop here. So that does look pretty good. I think AZS. I think we mentioned that one quite good there. GrainCorp was another one, number 29 there. So I was actually looking at this just because we sort of got our pullback here, our second pullback, and our third pullback there. So a bit messy from a VCP point of view, but does fit the characteristics there, Chris. And each pullback has gotten sort of shorter and shorter, and then kick through, and then obviously breaking above the high here is probably a good sign there as well.
It looks to
but-
be on the chart for the last 2 trading days as well.
Yeah, so it looks had a nice little pop there, but sometimes that's not the ideal setup there, because that's it's the whole lot's sitting under the 50-day moving average. So these are not the sort of highest quality ones, but oftentimes you can see these VCPs set up here. Me personally, I would want to see it break above there. So it didn't really do that. So you would have been, or you could have bought the gap up here if you're bold. But yeah, it's just kicked on as well. So, but yeah, just interesting, that one, I thought. I think that was it. The only one I thought with, because I saw that GrainCorp, I thought, oh, interesting to keep an eye on Elders as well, because this one's been in the doldrums here. It's really, really congested down here. Nice volume starting to, So I thought, well, okay, maybe GrainCorp, keep an eye on Elders here. So you want to see something in there, but yeah, not too much. But I thought it was actually a pretty interesting list there. Yeah, some of the text moving around. So yeah, I do like some of that.
So that was all the quarterly momentum, was it? Was that?
That was well, most of those ones there were all the weekly ones, the Launchpad. But yeah, the quarterlies was sort of still a lot of stocks that were probably in there previously. Still a few in there. As I say, a few of the golds have probably eased out of there. I think the last few weeks we've had a few more gold sort of stocks in there. There's still a few in there, but not as many there.
So definitely dominated by, as you were saying, lithium with the corporate action there, taking that on, and that solid week helping move those into the Launchpad as being highly ranked lithium stocks in the Launchpad. And then you were noting a couple of other themes in there, like uranium having a bit of a move, hydrogen, and then what you were just looking at there, some agricultural companies possibly highlighting some good movement.
Well, that's definitely the most interesting. Obviously, you've got lithium and uranium on that weekly list. So they're the 2 sectors to keep a close eye on here, because that might be the start of bigger things to happen. Obviously, as you know, this is bad. You know better than I do. That's where they start in the Launchpad, and then before they end up in the quarterly list there. So they're definitely the sectors and stocks to be looking for. And the one thing about the charts there is once those leading stocks start to move, what we're looking for is that pause, looking for that little congestion, and you're looking for the volume to dry up there. That's what we're looking for there. And if we get our VCPs or a false break or high type flag, all those other technical positions, that definitely add to our trading ability and in terms of our risk management and being able to trade these things. But that's what we're looking for. We're looking for those leading stocks, leading themes. And so I gave you a plug earlier, but that sort of sector report that you've been sending me the last few weeks here, that does, I've got to learn it better, but you can see there that the sectors that are pretty strong, if you just focus on those sort of stocks and those sort of leading sectors there, just makes things a little easier. You just don't want to, just don't want to be trading a stock. Don't want to be trading stocks that are in a downward, trend there. If the whole sector is trending down, it's going to be hard for even the best stock in the sector can, it's going to be hard if the whole sector's on the nose. So, you read all the best traders, all this, read all the textbooks there. They talk about, relative strength, talking about strong sectors, talking about, trading the leaders. There's a reason why these books keep saying that over and over again. And it's the reason why the best traders keep saying it over and over again, because it's bloody true. That's where the best people make their money, and those are the stocks that are leading there. And so keep looking in your leadership group. I mean, just give yourself do an exercise. And I think I mentioned this the last 2 weeks. Look at the new highs and the new low list, and just do it for a week or 2 weeks, and do it every day. And so the same stocks will be in new high. It's like, that stock's making a new high yesterday. Day before, it was a new high. The day before that was a new high. Those leadership stocks, they just keep going to new highs. The ones that are on the nose going down, they go to new low, new low, new low. They're in there every second or third day of the new lows. They just keep making new lows, new lows. You don't want to be looking in that end of the market, okay? There's a reason why there's about 30 companies get delisted every month, because lots of them go out the back door. We just don't want to be, we want to stay away from the bottom third. We don't want to trade the middle third. We want to just trade the top third, strongest sectors, strongest companies. It's simple as that. That's what we're trying to do here. Am I right, Chris? Is that what your report has been, you've created there?
Oh, bang on. It's just reading from Jesse Livermore through to Stan Weinstein, William O'Neill. As you're saying, the books keep coming up, resurfacing the same aspect of the markets, how to make money. It's been the leading themes, the leading stocks, those top performing sectors. And like you're saying, if it's a strong performing company, and it might be the absolute best, but if all its peers and sisters stocks are falling, that's telling you that the economic environment is not favourable, even though they might have the best management team, the best margins, et cetera, et cetera. And what we're looking at here and what you'd surfaced today on the lithium and the uranium stocks, I know through sending you those reports over the last couple of weeks, what we've seen is the launchpad's been building for the uranium stocks. And while the share prices hadn't started shooting out yet, there was just that accumulation happening. And that's kind of that early indicator that you're talking about. But when you're talking about the same stocks hitting 52-week high after high after high, in doing those daily reports of these momentum reports that I'm sending you, but also the top 10 that we're putting on Twitter and on YouTube, there was a day this week where the same top 10 were the exact same top 10 in the same order. And quite often they'll be the same 10, but they just jiggle around fifth to third, third to fifth, that kind of thing. And as you're saying, there's a reason that the best traders focus on that, is because if you want to make money in a share that goes up, well, these are the shares that go up. So,
yeah, look, even if you're not sort of scared to maybe trade some of the sort of smaller stuff there, even looking at trading the bigger caps in the leading sectors there, that's the way to go there. I mean, it's like obviously Newcrest and the gold, and then we've seen the tech stuff there. We've seen like Zero's had a decent move. Car sales, Seek. So I noticed even like 360 and stuff there. I mean, I sort of oftentimes you see the big ones move first, and then the second tiers, and then the small ones there. So that's why I'm still playing in a lot of the tech stuff there, just because I think that sector's been running for a while now. And then just the process there is the big ones first, and then the mid caps are second, and then the small ones will move there. So maybe something like an Airtasker here or Playside Studios probably more interesting there. They'll probably be the last ones to move in there. So, but yeah, I mean, you're seeing here now we've got got lithium and uranium there. Uranium's pretty tricky, but maybe we just got to adjust our trade size there. But mate, the lithium sector is pretty robust. There's plenty of players in there, some bigger players in there. We want to wait for these sort of setups. So we want to see this is our little VCP in there, mate, sitting above the 50-day. We've sort of got elevated volume in there.
Full contractions, rising highs, rising lows, I should say.
Just go and watch that VCP video you put together. Chris put together. Watch that 10 times until it sinks in, and then just trade those. You can do this for 15, 20 years and then hang up the boots. You'll be go and buy your pad wherever you want to go and buy it.
Well, that's probably a good summary of how to be trading the markets and your approach to the markets. And we're both singing from the same hymn book as to how we approach markets. So to that end, we'll say thank you for another great summary of the top 30 momentum stocks and the top 30 launchpad stocks, and putting that together into highlighting where the leading themes are. And as you mentioned, I guess we're working behind the scenes to bring another report to market so that it can help all these stocks that Gary's getting and filtering on a daily basis, sending those through. So to that end, I guess we say thank you, Gary Glover from Novus Capital.
Thanks, Chris.
Gary's mentioned the reports and the VCPs and those other trading videos where we go into aspects like inflation and those kind of economic situations, as well as trading setups. That playlist is on the right-hand side. Gary also manages his own portfolio and client portfolios. There's a report that he sends out. We cover those reports on Tuesdays. There's a whole playlist on the right-hand side. And then finally, Gary's accessible and contactable on Twitter, where he's reasonably active and does contribute to economics as well as trading insights. That's on the left-hand side.